So let me introduce you for a second. Okay, so Tad is a licensed professional counselor. He's a coach, he's an author, and he is a musician. I love that combination, by the way. You help people master their mental health and well-being by learning simple yet powerful habits and overcoming limiting beliefs. Wow. You also are an EMDR trained and specialize in working with men. And Tad, you are living in Colorado. You love the outdoors, reading, meditation, guitar, and spending time with your family. I love that. You know, of all those things that you identify with, right? When you say about, I'd love to hear a little more about who you are. So of all those things which you said, right? Being a counselor, being an author, a musician, which one do you identify most with? Which one is closest to your heart?
Yeah, that's really tough to say. It might be, it might be somewhat of a tie between being a counselor and a musician. And actually, funny enough, there's more similarities than you might think in terms of having to, both of those have really an art and a science to them. And, balancing both, you have to bring some creativity and some improvisation and some different things to those different fields. But yeah, they're both really kind of core to my well-being for sure.
I love it. I love it. When you look at men's mental health, because that's what we're going to all talk about, mental fitness and mental health for men. Why are you so passionate about it? What is that? Why do you think it's so important? I love it that you're a man and that you are paying attention to this, but I would love to hear your story about that.
Sure. Yeah. So number one, as a male who knows what it's like to have mental health or mental and emotional challenges, many years ago, when I was a younger man, in my teens and 20s, I really, I struggled with depression a lot, but I didn't know that that's what it was. And so for the longest time, I thought that there's just something wrong with me. Right. And I think a lot of men are underserved in a lot of ways when it comes to the mental health conversation and when it comes to really developing mental wellness, or maybe what we would call mental fitness, right? Which is kind of maintaining good health and maintaining, being able to know what brings you joy in life, know how to heal yourself, know how to really become more whole. And I think that, again, there's a lot of factors with this, social conditioning, and kind of who we've been brought up to be, what we've been taught is acceptable or not acceptable, what our role is as men. We tend to be very self-reliant, very stoic, and sometimes those are the things that actually really get in the way of connecting and having meaningful relationships, and also being able to seek help when we need it. So for me, when I was young, it took me a long time to kind of really seek out that help, because I just assumed. And then when I found out, oh, this is actually a thing that I'm dealing with called depression, and here's how I can treat it and develop it. That was just, at the time, for me, that was really opened my mind. And I realized, like, wow, this is, and a lot of men that I work with now, don't realize that, hey, it doesn't define you. This isn't, who you are. This is just something you're dealing with, understandably, because, it's a difficult, especially now, it's a difficult time for a lot of people that we're living in. So yeah, it kind of comes from just that desire to really want to help, men realize that, there's some unique barriers that we face in getting help, but it doesn't need to be that way. So sorry, go ahead.
No, it's okay. But I'm curious about it. When you said, how did you find out that actually had a name? What was that discovery process for you? Because I think that's important for also younger men to know as well, right? But any men of any ages. How was that for you? How did you make that switch? Like, oh, this is something, it's actually going on, right? Versus I'm just feeling sad.
Yeah, I think it was when I finally decided to, hey, I'm really struggling trying to figure this out on my own. And I was like, there was one day when I finally decided, okay, I'm just going to pick up the phone and like start trying to find a counselor or somebody that can help me, right? A professional. So once I got into that process and started having some dialogue about things, and then seeking out some resources, books and articles online and different things like that, and kind of that process of self-discovery, that's when I sort of had that light bulb of realizing that, like you just said, oh, this is a thing that I'm dealing with. It's not just a flaw that I have as a person. And likewise, realizing that there were certain thoughts that I was having that were really kind of detrimental, but that I just didn't question before. And when I realized like that my thoughts didn't have to define me either, that, oh, maybe these are just thoughts that I'm having that might be not accurate, that are, are telling me these sort of self-defeating messages. But when I really stopped to examine them, realizing that, oh, there's a lot of flawed thinking that I'm doing, and and I can change that. So likewise, that was kind of the switch, realizing that, the thoughts I'm having don't define me. What I'm feeling doesn't define me. It's just an experience I'm having. And there are ways that I can shape and mold that and change that.
Wow. And so then you went to becoming a counselor, right?
Mm-hmm.
And working with men. Any particular kind of men you're working with, or any kind of men at this point?
Yeah, really men of all ages. And I should say that when I started out for several years, I worked with all kinds of different people, men and women, and I do still work with women too. But yeah, for the last few years, I've been really kind of really specializing with working with men. But yeah, a lot of everything from young adults, teens, to people, I just actually finished up working with a client who's in his 70s, and who really made some amazing strides in his mental health and being able to sort of handle anger better and better understand himself and things like that. Yeah, so really, really all ages.
I love that. That's amazing. If you would define 3 major struggles of men right now, and maybe 1 or 2 things they can do about it, and I'm just throwing this on you, I know, but if there's something you can identify for men specifically, what struggles do you really see, like 3 major struggles for men that you see them struggling with right now? We're just coming through COVID, right? We have a lot of things going on, a lot of stress going on. What do you see for the modern men right now? What is it going on?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one is isolation, and sort of a feeling of lack of connection, whether that be socially or otherwise. And some of that has been worsened by COVID, of course, or just exacerbated by that. Another, I think, is kind of a stigma and a longstanding. And it's getting a bit better. Obviously there's things like this happening, which is amazing. So it's getting better, but a lot of men still carry stigma about just asking for help and seeking that out and being willing to accept that. And that can be a barrier.
What is the stigma? Can you say? Because I think you know it so well, but I don't think everybody knows it that well. What's the stigma?
Sure. Yeah. I think for men, again, this is speaking really generally, right? But at least in Western society, we've been so conditioned to, like I said, to not show vulnerability, even though vulnerability is where growth happens. That's what allows us to connect. It's where we grow, right? But we've been conditioned that that's somehow weak and that's somehow not okay, which is just not true. But it's comes down to vulnerability and that we're taught to sort of be self-reliant problem solvers, and we're taught to essentially be strong and accomplished and to show strength and to show, be accomplished in our careers or our incomes or with women or with other, and so if we're not, when we are struggling, because we're human, and so there's going to be times in life when we're struggling, a lot of men internalize that and they feel that they're broken or that there's something wrong with them. And as opposed to being able to just recognize that I'm human and this is something that I need some help to navigate. So I think that's a lot of, I guess, where I see stigma. And like I said, it is getting better because the more we talk about it, one of my sort of personal heroes, Fred Rogers, he said, if something is mentionable, it's manageable. In other words, if we can talk about something, it becomes something that we can actually deal with. And so I'm really glad there's more dialogue like this happening now. But like I said, yeah, isolation has been a challenge for a lot of guys right now. And sort of spinning off of that, as people have struggled with their mood and their health overall, like, substance use and relying on kind of the wrong coping skills, or I should just say unhealthy coping skills, drinking and drugs too much, things like that. And then that kind of exacerbating whatever other problems are going on.
Yeah, those are big ones. And if you're listening and you're recognizing any of this, or you put it in the comments, right? Or maybe for somebody else, isolation, stigma, and then also these coping mechanisms. Those are really, really good pointers. What would you say? Well, you have your own practice, right, where you help men with this. Let's make it first very, very clear. And guys, we are giving a free session away, so thank you so much for somebody who is by commenting. So the more you comment, the more you'll have a chance to do this, because I love it what you're doing with men. What would you say to these men right now who are listening, or their partners, right, or their women who care in their lives? I mean, there's a lot of moms, there's a lot of wives, there's a lot of other people who care, dads who care about what's going on right now. If you look at those 3 points, what do you think are some things people can do?
Do you mean like to steps they can take or that sort of thing?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I would say the number one biggest thing is just don't do your best not to allow yourself to become isolated. And by that, I mean, don't close off. The tendency we have, and women too, I think, is when we're really struggling to go inward and to really close off and isolate, which is actually sort of the opposite of what we need to do to get better and to get through it. So I would say, number one, just talk to somebody. I know a lot of people do feel really alone out there, but if there's anybody, even if it's just a friend or a buddy or somebody, and even if you're not going to talk about mental health struggles, you don't have to. Just keep talking and just keep engaging with people and try to stay connected as best you can. That would be one of the biggest things, I would say. And then likewise, just remind yourself that it's okay. Like, it's okay to, as the old saying goes, not be okay. And it's this old cliche, but it's really true, that if you're struggling in whatever way that is, just remind yourself it's okay. It's okay to be there, and that it's okay to get help and lean on people. And so, the other thing I would encourage too is just thinking back, see if you can remember back to a time in your life when you've really felt like you were in a good place. I think we've all had at least a couple moments in our life where we felt like we were just in stride, right? Where everything was just in the flow and going great. You were feeling good. And see if you can remember back to a time period in your life when you felt that way and what that felt like. And what were you doing at that time? What kind of activities were you engaging in? What were you thinking about? How did you see yourself? And maybe see if you can try to reconnect with some activities that used to bring you some joy or some meaning or some accomplishment or some connection, things like that. The more you can kind of start getting active and getting moving, and that can really help kind of dislodge, what some of the emotional blocks and things that might be holding you down. So just a couple things right away that people could start doing, today.
Yeah, I love that. I love that. I think it's very powerful, and you give very powerful messages. If there's guys who's listening right now, because I know you also do coaching, right? And I just want to step into that, because if there's guys listening right now, or other people who say, wow, this sounds good, and I think I need some help, what do you personally provide? I'd love to talk a little more about that.
Yeah. So thanks for that question. So there's basically kind of, I guess the way I see it is 2 arms to my practice. So there's psychotherapy, which we might call therapy or counseling. And that is basically the way that works is I'm only allowed to practice that where I'm licensed, which is in Colorado. So if you're in Colorado, we can do therapy together. And that's a little bit different, a little bit more, I guess you could say, in-depth process in some ways, in the sense that we're really often working through past trauma and ways to heal that, as well as like processing emotions and things like that. And sometimes connecting you to other resources if that's medication management or things like that. And then there's the coaching side of things, which is which we can connect from anywhere in the world to do that. And that is similar in a lot of ways, but one way it's different, I would say, is it tends to be a little bit more solutions focused and a little bit more, helping give you information and tools and strategies and kind of specific things and even kind of guidance and like you say, coaching, essentially like sometimes giving you kind of things to work on, things to practice, homework, so to speak, and really kind of help being a bit more directive and a bit more guiding in that way. And sometimes too, we tend to be a little bit more focused on, I guess what you'd say, the mental fitness or the wellness, which is like, how can I, in addition to overcoming some problems and challenges, how can I enhance joy in my life? How can I enhance like my sense of confidence or my fulfillment? Things like that. So we tend to also focus on those types of things in coaching. And again, that's the type of thing that we can do from anywhere in the world. So
awesome. Well, that's one of the things we're giving away. So guys, put session down below, and also any takeaways. I would love to hear some takeaways that you're getting from everything we're saying right now, and what's a personal tip for you. We're also giving an ebook away. Thanks for your generosity. It's awesome. We're also giving, so I'd love for you to tell a little bit about that ebook, what it's all about. And then I guess maybe as a last wrap up, as we're getting to the end of this, is what do you see in the, actually, let's talk about the ebook first. Tell us about the ebook and I'll do the other question. What's the ebook?
Sure. Yeah, sure. It's called The Stress Solution for High Achievers, Perfectionists, and Busy People. And it's surprisingly simple steps to calm your mind. So I wrote it a couple years ago because I was just noticing kind of certain themes in my work with people about what people were saying about just feeling overwhelmed, not being able to turn off the thoughts in their mind, feeling chronically stressed, that turning into anxiety. And there were some, again, surprisingly simple strategies that we could employ that I really compiled into this ebook, and it's structured in such a way that the first half of it is called Back to Basics, and it's really about each chapter's different sort of life hack, essentially a different strategies that you can start putting in place day to day that are immediately gonna dissolve a lot of stress and eliminate a lot of stress from your life, from the equation. And then the second section is called Master Your Mindset, and that's really about so more of those mental strategies and kind of practices that you can do, again, on a day-to-day, week-to-week, that, how to change the internal dialogue that's causing you to be stressed and anxious, and really putting those things together so you can live a lifestyle that's more supportive of just feeling calm, peaceful, grounded, that sort of thing. So each chapter kind of builds on the next in terms of the skills. So it's kind of a whole solution to high stress and anxiety.
I love it. And you're right, it is going more into mental fitness, which I love to, and we'll talk way more about that this week as well. So thanks so much for coming on, Tad. I have loved talking to you. Guys, please put in the comments, and we'll also put your information in there so people can connect with you. And if they want, we're going to give one free ebook away, but if they want to purchase the ebook, that we'll put the link and everything else in there too. I am curious, what do you see in the future? What do you see in the future for men's mental health as we're getting more comfortable, as we're getting less isolated, right? Let's assume we're going that way because we need to go that way. What do you see there? What's your thought about that? Men's mental health and mental fitness for the future?
Yeah, I think we're in a lot of ways going through a real revolution in, I guess we could just broadly say personal wellness, but especially for men when it comes to mental fitness and mental wellness. I think I'm an optimist, so I just see things to continue to really grow in terms of the amount of information out there, the amount of resources, and the normalizing of the importance of mental health is just as important as your physical health, right? And we all most of us want to be in good shape, and we have effort, make efforts at that. And I really see eventually it's going to be, the mind is, it's going to be just another one of those areas that's just essential, that people, accept that this is a part of just being a healthy person, and really being able to show up, well for your spouse, or your partner, or your kids, or your friends, whoever. So yeah, I really see it becoming just a lot more common, a lot more mainstream, and a lot of men really getting it and really making progress in that regard, and helping others too. So that's kind of
Nice.
my vision, or what I see.
Nice. And hopefully we'll teach it for the children as well, right? Maybe we'll start that at
Yeah,
the basic level, right? I love that. I love that.
definitely. Yeah.
Awesome. Awesome. Anything else you want to end with for today? Any kind of other tips or ideas? I know you shared a whole lot with us, and I'm so grateful for all you shared. And like I said, guys, please get in touch. The more I get to know you, we haven't met for that long, but the more I see what you're doing, the more I'm really impressed with how much you're helping men, and with your ebook, with your work, with your coaching. Yeah, I'm really impressed by what you're doing, and it's so needed. It really is so needed. So thank you. Any other last minute words before we finish?
Well, thank you for that. I really appreciate that. Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome. And yeah, if people want to learn more, in addition to my website, I think what you said, you'll provide a link to that, but they can also go to my Facebook group, which is called Mental Health Mastery. And that's a group that I've recently started, where really the goal to provide tools and strategies and information and resources, and just like a positive dialogue around mental health. So I'm always, seeking to just, again, provide helpful resources for people in that group that they can take and use, and to kind of help themselves in their daily life. So yeah, it's called Mental Health Mastery Facebook group. So feel free to join there, and yeah, we'll be continue growing and learning in there. So.
Thank you. Awesome. Awesome. Well, we'll also put that link in the bottom. But guys, thanks so much. And thanks so much, Tad, again, for coming on. For everybody else, please, if you see this on my personal page, the next interview will not be here. It will be in the Mental Fitness Movement Facebook group. So please join there, find us. We'll also put a link in here, and join. Actually, ask some people to join this. If you now know somebody who could hear this, please come and join us, because we have a whole week of high performance coaches. We have another nurse practitioner coming on, a Tony Robbins coach. We have so many people coming on. So Tad, you're in very good company, and thanks again for today.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. Appreciate it.